You're listening to Puma Podcast.
Hi, I'm Franco Luna Puma Podcast, and you're listening to Teka Teka News. In this episode,
Mr. Speaker, we have seen during the past committee deliberations sa Office of the Vice President and Office of the President na yung mga officials ng parehong ahensya ay present naman po sa komite, hinarap ang Committee on Appropriations. Pero sila po ay naprotektahan ng tinatawag nating parliamentary courtesy. Now, Mr. Speaker, they did not entertain questions coming from our representatives, but right after the budget briefings for both agencies, ay kaya naman pala nilang maglabas ng statements in relation sa issues sa kanilang mga ahensya.
ano nga ba talaga ang parliamentary courtesy?
Thank you very much for the presentation from the Office of the Vice President.
Madam Chair.
The Chair recognizes Senior Deputy Majority Leader Sandro
Yes,
Marcos.
in line with the long-standing tradition of giving the Office of the Vice President parliamentary courtesy, I move to terminate the budget of the Office of the Vice President.
I object,
We have
Madam
a motion
Chair.
duly seconded for the termination of the budget of the presentation of the
We
Office of the Vice
object,
President.
Madam Chair.
You just heard the House Appropriations Committee's hearing on the proposed budget of the Office of the Vice President. And you heard right, it was House Senior Deputy Majority Leader and presidential son Sandro Marcos who motioned to end it without any public discussion at all. Ganon din ang nangyari sa budget hearing ng Office of the President.
The hearing is hereby resumed.
Madam Chair, may I be recognized?
Yes, Honorable Manuel.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Okay, sorry, I withdraw that. I will rule first on the pending motion. The objection has been withdrawn, and therefore the motion to terminate the budget briefing
No,
of
Madam
the
Chair, I object.
Office of the President is hereby approved.
No, Madam Chair. Naghabol po ako ng objection ko dun sa motion to terminate. Hindi po pwedeng mag-terminate tayo
Let us
ng
now
deliberations
proceed with the
habang
manifestation
hindi
of the
nagiging part
Honorable
ng
Council.
records na
The
ating-
9-minute
Chair.
budget deliberation for President Bongbong Marcos's office was the shortest so far in the ongoing budget hearings. And before that, the shortest budget hearing this year involved the Office of the Vice President, which clocked in at 14 minutes. Both times, pro-admin lawmakers belonging to the supermajority invoked parliamentary courtesy. Pero tinutulan ito ng mga minority congressmen. Here's what Kabataan Representative Raul Manuel had to say about it.
Kaya Madam Speaker, it seems that the administration is not really after clarifying issues, but it is after deceiving the public. Also, Mr. Speaker, para bang pinipilit natin yung pag-grant ng parliamentary courtesy that it results in disorderly proceedings. Kahit po yung House rules na kakadraft natin for the 19th Congress, hindi na rin natin sinusunod. This is while, Mr. Speaker, sa Senado nga po, na bahagi din naman ng legislative branch, may mga senador na nakapagtanong po sa Vice President at sinagot ng Vice President yung mga tanong. Tayo, Mr. Speaker, sa lower house, we try to extend courtesy, pero it seems na tayo yung hindi naman binibigyan ng ganong kaukulang respeto.
Pero teka, ano nga ba itong parliamentary courtesy?
So parliamentary courtesy involves this practice of disengaging or not allowing members of a particular branch of government to engage the other branch or, the other office. That is considered to be part of the government. Kaya siya parliamentary courtesy, you forgo this expected duty of yours to question, to scrutinize. So this has been done in the past na, involving, the executive branch vis-a-vis the legislature. You will disengage at the formal, level or the formality of things. But that doesn't stop you from doing your work naman or her job. Meaning, instead of doing the ritual talaga or the formalities na merong, pagpapakilala pa, who are you, what's your name, you are called upon by this chamber.
That's political scientist Arjan Aguirre. He says that on one hand, Parliamentary courtesy can be used to save time in hearings that often run too long. On the other, it can allow officials to avoid answering difficult questions from lawmakers during budget hearings, things we citizens need to know. It's been around for a long time too. In 2011, Negros Occidental Representative Ignacio Arroyo, younger brother of former First Gentleman Mike Arroyo, rejected an invitation from the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee. He was asked to testify on alleged irregularities in the sale of second-hand helicopters to the police. His kuya was supposedly involved in the anomaly, and Congressman Arroyo had cited parliamentary courtesy. More recently,
Ito example, si former Congressman Rex Gatchalian. He used to be part of the House of Representatives, and now that he is part of the executive branch, when he presented his documents, they did this parliamentary courtesy of no longer asking him or telling him to brief the committee. Remember, first part kasi ito eh. Ito yung formality, magsasubmit ka ng documents mo, telling them yung mga budget items na gusto mo. So, kadalasan binibrief mo yung Appropriations Committee. Pag sinabing parliamentary courtesy, pino-forgo mo, hindi na sila nagbibrief.
So the point is that it's not the biggest news in the world whenever it's invoked. Lawmakers who defended the invocation were right about one thing. The practice has been around for a while now. But since it's not a written rule, its application can be very selective and discriminatory.
If you remember, si Senator Laila de Lima, diba, she was accused of yung panglalalaki. Diba, yung members of the House of Representatives, diba, they conducted hearings, diba? They played the, dubious mga video recordings.
Senators at the time did file resolutions pushing back against the House's move to play the alleged sex videos at the hearing, and they also invoked parliamentary courtesy. Here's Senator Risa Hontiveros in a privileged speech dated October 4, 2016.
It would be violative of interparliamentary courtesy because, as I learned when I was working in the House of Representatives, there is that institutional courtesy across the divide between the House of Representatives and the Senate among fellow legislators, all of whom are supposed to be working in harmony or in principal disagreement with each other in order to craft a policy framework that will advance various goods, including human dignity, human equality, and gender equality. Therefore, such an act, which is so obviously springing from sexism and misogyny, which would undermine our efforts to uplift the dignity of women and the equality among women and men of different sexual orientations and gender identities, would set it back.
Narinig naman natin na walang courtesy dun sa mga hearing na yun. Actually, may pagkabastos pa nga. Arjan says that parliamentary courtesy is practiced in Congress chambers all around the world. It's no different from the other traditions that make a House of Representatives what it is. But what matters is the message you send when you invoke it.
Yeah, for example, if you're an ally, meaning if I'm a senator, tas ally ko yung government ruling coalition, I'll forgo the formalities and I'll just ask the person to go straight to the point. Why do you need this funding? I mean, use the time to convince us. Dito sa budget process or even in the lawmaking process, merong mga rituals doon, pwede mo na i-forgo para makasave talaga ng time. Kaya sabi ko, it really depends kung paano siya i-execute or paano siya gagawin.
We're pausing for a quick break now. When we return, we'll tell you about why this instance of parliamentary courtesy with respect to the budgets of the offices of the President and Vice President might be problematic.
Sa aking idol na pinakamagaling na Vice Presidente ng Pilipinas, my very good friend, Vice President Inday Sara Duterte. Well, traditionally, with due respect and courtesy to the second highest leader of our country, when the budget of the Office of the Vice President is tackled here in the committee, the deliberations are terminated after a few pleasantries. Ito po ang nakakagawian natin base sa tradisyon na pagkilala at pagbibigay respeto sa sino mang umuupo na Vice Presidente.
You just heard Senator Bong Revilla at yan naman ang budget hearing ng OVP sa Senado. Narinig nyo naman, ganun din ang in-invoke nila. Political scientist Arjan Aguirre says this means lawmakers might be using it more going forward.
There's nothing wrong talaga with parliamentary courtesy, but because of its instrumental worth, nagagamit talaga siya or magagamit talaga siya ng mga members ng mga chambers or even people in the government. So it's very obvious that there are people nowadays who use that to protect an ally or perhaps to send a message. We have to be clear on that. This has been instrumentalized, this recent events kasi involved yung isang, main actor ng isang ruling coalition. So ayaw nilang maramdaman din ng actor na ito na may iniipit or merong panghaharas.
The crux of the matter is this. Is public interest sacrificed in the name of interparliamentary courtesy? Is public interest served when no public discussion is allowed, when both the OVP and the OP have confidential funds in their budget proposals? Whose interest did the supermajority serve when they prevented opposition lawmakers from questioning the proposed budgets of the offices of our two highest officials? At the upper chamber, Senator Risa Hontiveros took issue with the OVP lashing out against questions from lawmakers. Here's what she had to say about it in a statement.
Trabaho lang, walang drama. Akala ko ba, VP Sara, the OVP can live without confidential funds? Bakit parang pinapawisan na yata kayo dyan? Budget hearing pa lang. Lahat naman ng ahensya naglalabas ng proposed budget. Hindi kayo special.
That was in response to Duterte's DepEd calling Hontiveros out for what the Vice President called a flair for the dramatic. There's a conversation we need to have too about what our lawmakers actually understand about the practice. In an interview aired over ABS-CBN News Channel, Marikina Representative Stella Kimbo said that the parliamentary courtesy is, quote, basically not to embarrass them, close quote. The thing is, as you heard in the House hearing earlier, opposition lawmakers weren't allowed to speak despite their objections. Alliance of Concerned Teachers Representative Franz Castro even had her mic turned off as she was insisting on using her time for interpellation to get an answer.
So parang parliamentary courtesy, to me, it's the opposite of what they intended to do. Naging discourteous sila sa colleagues nila, and they also became disrespectful of the process. That is still, part of the ritual of budget deliberation. Kahit na sabihin mo, hindi pa nagsisimula ang budget deliberation. But that is the initial part Kahit ba sinabi mo nag-invoke ka ng parliamentary courtesy, parang if a motion was raised asking for explanation, just give the floor to that member of the chamber to finish his or her piece. Hindi yung tinatayan mo, nag-walk out ka.
Ano naman ang ibig sabihin ng paggamit nito sa House of Representatives at sa papel nito bilang check and balance?
We have a laggard government and you have a House that wants to be part of this, sabihin nating, major coalition talaga. They don't have a strong executive branch. So the House, I'm sensing, parang wala siyang direction. Hindi niya alam yung gagawin. So ang pinaka-accomplishment so far yung Maharlika. Doon mo nakita yung pag-shepherd ng mga members of the House.
And that was today's episode of Teka Teka News. Again, I'm Franco Luna. This episode was edited by Freddy Blanco. Our Teka Teka News executive producer is Jill Caro. And our senior editor is Veronica Uy. Kung nagustuhan nyo itong episode, pakishare naman. And of course, don't forget to follow Teka Teka News and Puma Podcast on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube and you appreciated the episode, please do take the time to like and subscribe to our channel. Makakatulong yan sa amin para masama kami sa YouTube algorithm. Thanks for listening.